Tensión Breaker by Kate Cumming. Barbara woke with a jump to the jingly tone of her landline. She snatched the phone off its holder, feeling the chill on her arms through her thin nightie, making a note of the lack of any light from outside. Shit, that means it's definitely before 4, when the pale grey mornings begin. Yes, she chirps in a false, jovial, I'm wide awake voice, hoping it's a call from one of her girls in labour, planning a home birth. Her heart sank a little when she heard the coordinator of the local delivery suite asking her to go to the big main hospital and help as they were busy. She dragged herself out of bed, quick brush of teeth and hair, a scrape of frost from her windscreen, and she drove through country lanes and city streets to the huge block of light which was the hospital. The streets were empty, which felt strange, flying through junctions, usually gridlocked with traffic in the day. The country lanes, full of woodland creatures with a death wish, and the orange illuminated city streets waiting for the car invasion when everyone wakes up. Blue scrubs on, and she stood in front of the huge white board awaiting instruction, a whiteboard full of names and details of women filling all the room slots. Every number a drama being played out, a memorable experience in a family's life. Barbara was nervous. She felt ridiculous to admit it to herself. She'd been qualified over 30 years, but had recently relocated from the north of England to the south. In her previous job, she had been sublimely confident. She knew everyone, and everyone knew her. She was the go-to person for junior midwives or new doctors. On top of her game. But here she stood, tired, hungry, feeling out of her comfort zone. The staff on this unit had a reputation for being judgmental, sharp, and not very supportive to their colleagues. Barbara had not met any of the midwives on shift that night. An occasional hi from fellow scrub wearers as they flew by, and that was it. What followed was a whirlwind of activity. She threw herself into her work, asking where things were as she went along. There were no windows in this subterranean unit, no natural light, no clue to the time of day or the weather. Barbara quickly forgot her hunger and fatigue as the adrenaline surged with the concentration of her job. Oh, the reassuring sight of the day staff starting to filter into the changing rooms and into handover. The cavalry. She'd just delivered a baby and was doing the paperwork when the coordinator asked her to help in room 5, as a junior midwife was struggling and she wanted to hand over to the day staff. Midwives always remember what room things happen. A strange phenomena. Years later, names and other details fade, but never which room they were in. Barbara knocked quietly on room 5 and slid in to help. An exhausted-looking young midwife looked relieved to see her. She had just called the doctor, who had agreed that a forceps delivery was needed, and the young midwife did not feel confident alone with the doctor. The room was lit by a low lamp, giving subdued lighting, conducive with the calm atmosphere strived for in this situation. The couple had laboured all night, a young couple having their first baby. The doctor formally introduced himself, and Barbara and her colleague made ready for the birth. A bright light was positioned between her legs as her legs were gently put into supports. Dad-to-be was now holding his girlfriend's hand. He was very anxious. 2 strange staff in their room, equipment being prepared which resembled medieval torture. The atmosphere was calm and businesslike, but tense. The baby's heartbeat made a reassuring, hypnotic thud, thud from the monitor. This baby was quite happy, but stuck. Usually, Barbara would have tried to lighten the room with banter and chat, but didn't feel confident enough to do this. She herself was in a foreign environment. It wasn't her family who she had been up with all night, and she didn't know the other 2 members of staff. The formal doctor was gowned up and ready. He turned around to start taking instruments from his sterile field on top of the trolley. He reached out into the gloom beyond his spotlight. There was a moment. Barbara leaned over the trolley at exactly the same moment as the doctor did. There, in the middle of the trolley, was a white, luminous blob. They both leaned in to take a closer look and smelt a powerful aroma of peppermint. They looked at each other. He then turned to the mother. "I'm so sorry, but I seem to have used your toothpaste," he said. Barbara deftly picked up a tube of forceps gel and squirted it next to the large pile of toothpaste. She then started giggling. The boyfriend started laughing, and soon all 5 people in the room were laughing as 5 became 6. So inappropriate, so unprofessional, but fatigue hysteria welcomed this baby into the world. As she scraped the frost from her windscreen and drove home through busy commuter streets and country lanes without a rabbit or deer in sight, she laughed out loud at what she now named the Colgate incident. As she climbed back into bed, aching with her night's exertions, she smiled to herself, smiled at herself, and smiled with the pomposity of situations which can be diffused by a tube of Colgate on a locker. This is a true story. Names have been changed to maintain confidentiality.